Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Creating a Healthy, Flexible Space in a Time of Change webinar. Today, we have Jeremiah to chat about this topic with us. Thank you so much for being here today. Before we start, I just have some general housekeeping rules. Please ensure your mic is muted throughout the presentation. This will just help cause less disruptions and distractions to Jeremiah. If you have a question for Jeremiah, please write it in the questions box or use the raise your hand feature. All questions will be answered at the end of the presentation during our Q&A period, but feel free to get them in early. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Jeremiah to get things going.
All right, well, thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. As you heard, my name's Jeremiah. I'm a counseling therapist, and I'm also a therapist that does EAP work for CG Hilton, who has been sponsoring today's webinar and asked if I'd be able to do a presentation for the BILD Calgary region. So it's a real honor and pleasure to be here today. I've got quite the loaded title here. It's called Creating Healthy, Flexible Space in a Time of Constant Change. Wow, that's a mouthful, all right? And I think it's really important with everything going on today, and especially just with everything going on specifically within, well, we'll say these next 25 days until we find out, you know, newer reports and stuff like that from the Alberta Health Services and government of Alberta, and also federally within Canada. There's a lot of change that's been happening. If anything, if 9 months or almost coming up now to 10 months since the beginning of the pandemic or COVID-19, however you're choosing to phrase it, we have definitely had to learn or are working or struggling towards this thing called constant change. Oh my gosh. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So my agenda is just, and I'm just going to read the sentence here, is how to deal with the constant and oftentimes stressful circumstances of change, okay, and what to do about it in order to have a healthy, mentally and emotionally healthy home and work-life balance. So I'm going to be talking a lot about, of course, if you're working, whether you're in office, whether you're working at home, or you're having to combine that, working in home, at home, or maybe you're just viewing today and just a guest with BILD Calgary. Either way, we're going to be talking a little bit about both areas just to be able to support you in whatever you might be going through right now in your home circumstance. Of course, this is such a huge topic, so I'll be trying to narrow it down a little bit, but at the end of the day, definitely if you have any questions that are unrelated or somewhat related to what we're talking about today, I want to definitely encourage you to think about those questions and ask. This is a chance for you to pull out the best stuff from me today. So I really want to encourage you to do that at the end of our session. Hopefully for about 20 to 30 minutes presentation. That of course depends on how much this guy keeps going. And other than that, we will then open it up and definitely draw upon what maybe you're needing, or if you have other loved or family members that you're concerned about, to be able to do that as well. Okay. So part of the agenda as well is I'm going to be talking a lot of this kind of, I'm going to be referencing a lot of different people. You know, this is not just me who comes up with this stuff. It's just so many great stuff and material out there today that's available. This just comes from some of the concepts of the Simon Sinek book, Start With Why. If you're not familiar who Simon Sinek is, definitely encourage you afterwards, write that name down, Simon Sinek, go on YouTube and type in Start With Why and watch his watch one of his more widely watched TED Talk videos. But we're going to talk about the why. Okay, why are we talking about this topic? Why do we need flexible space? Okay. And then we're going to talk more about the what. What are we talking about? Well, I'm going to talk about a concept today called the power of pi. Okay. Out of that, we're going to talk about the how. The how do we create then flexible space, which is our main theme today, using pi. Okay. And then afterwards, of course, we'll have all the question and answer period and stuff like that. So we're going to start off here with a definition. All right. So what are we going to call flexible space? Okay, well, what do you mean by that? Okay, well, creating space is a healthy way of dealing with life's sudden changes, which can include, as we see here on the list, crisis, grief, loss, trauma, anxiety, and depression. Okay. Here's the thing. Pandemic or no pandemic, it's not a matter of if, but when. Okay. A drastic life changing event can happen in anyone's life that just throws this curveball in your life and our pre planned personal agendas. Okay. Such as, again, you might have heard this word before, pandemic. Okay. So beyond just the pandemic, this talk could very easily be given at any time of the year, pre, mid, during, post COVID. Okay, so this is just one of those messages that's just a passion of mine, but especially with the events that have happened throughout the world and in our province and city, has just kind of developed into a bit of a message, I guess, that I'm very passionate about sharing. So by creating intentional space, and here's the key word, it's intentional. You're going to hear me say that a lot probably as well, that intentional, having to make that choice to be intentional, the choosing to be intentional about creating space. We can then walk, all right, in new life without feeling stuck, okay, or being afraid to handle the unknown. So if you're watching today and you have been feeling very stuck in your circumstances, whatever they might be within home or work or both, or if you're just dealing with some of that fear of the unknown, I don't know what's around the corner. That's great. I mean, yesterday and today, of course, the big, hey, we got the vaccinations happening, but depending on how much or what you're following of the news, for the average population group, we're talking 6 months to a year from now, depending on whether a person's going to be able to get a vaccination or not. And that's if you're even wanting to get a vaccination or not. I'm not going to get into the political topics of that, but those are just things for consideration. But it still creates an unknown, which definitely is never a fun thing to deal with. And too much of that can get stuck. Okay, so why do we or I or you need flexible space? Okay, well, the answer is that when dealing with grief and loss, okay, or things like a global pandemic, in my opinion, they're just fancy ways of saying trauma, whether it's a little trauma or a bunch of little traumas, or maybe a big trauma, or maybe all the little traumas make this giant trauma within our individual lives. Okay. We need to create intentional space to develop a daily routine, which, out of creating a daily healthy routine, will support creating normalcy within our lives. Okay, so, of course, all the big talk with, new norm and all that kind of stuff. That might be some stuff afterwards we can talk about if you're interested in that. But, what is normal anymore? What is the new norm going to be? What is the next normal going to be? But at the end of the day, what I'm hoping to inspire and have you to be intentionally working on your life is to be able to create normalcy beginning right now in your life. Okay. So without normalcy and routine, here's the key: we lose our freedom of control, okay, which we are wired to have. Okay, so without normalcy and routine, we lose our freedom of control. Well, if anything has happened within this pandemic, is normalcy and routine has gone out the window. I don't know about you, but even in my practice, I'm just taking it one day, 1 week at a time. It's definitely been interesting observing kind of the world around and those who come visit me for clients. But at the end of the day, if it's one theme that I've seen, it's the normalcy and routine that's out the window, whether you're going into work to an empty office, when you're going home, if your kids are in school, maybe some are still in school, maybe some are doing online school. Either way, those are all things that have broken normalcy and routine out of our lives. Okay. And that's a loss of freedom of control that we're going to talk about a little bit more of here. So, not having flexible space can very rapidly lead, okay, to unhealthy living and what I like to call unhealthy coping skills or strategies, leading to various addictions, depression, anxiety, domestic violence. We've definitely heard a lot of increase of domestic violence to partners who don't get along, or maybe they've been struggling a little bit, but now everything's compressed. Everything's compressed with COVID, so now I'm stuck constantly 24 hours a day with my partner, with my kids, and that's creating a lot of tension. Okay. And sometimes, again, as I said before, it's just plain feeling stuck in life. I'm stuck. I'm stuck at home. I'm stuck in an empty office. I'm just stuck. I'm stuck in traffic. Well, maybe not the last 2 days since the restrictions. Traffic's definitely not. It's definitely less. I know during the first 2-3 months of the pandemic, when I was driving, that was incredible. I felt like I was back in the 80s, not like I was driving in the 80s, but I won't give my age away quite yet. That being said, just a lot of stuckness in people's lives. Okay. We want to get out of that stuckness feeling. Okay. So I have a question. And this is then, what do I need to do after all that I've said in order to intentionally create healthy, flexible space in my world of influence? What do we do? What's the answer? Well, the answer is what I call get my pieces of the pie. Okay, and this is where we're going to talk about a concept today, just for fun, called the power of pie. And it's good time with Christmas. Christmas, some people love having pie. If it's, I know my dad, he never liked cake when I was growing up. He loved having pie on his birthday. That was just one of his kind of original things that he brought to the table. So what are we talking about? The power of pie. Well, let's get into that. So I'm going to talk today about what I call the recipe for creating space using the power of pie, P-I-E. Okay. And what we're going to do is just start off with P, which is personal space. Okay. And in my own life, okay, I have to create personal space, which is a way of saying having connection with myself, having connection with myself. The next one is called intimate space. We want to create intimate space. This is with my family, my relationships. In other words, having connection with others. So personal space, connection with myself, and then creating intimate space, connection with others. Okay. And that, of course, can be with intimate space. I want to mention that we take that and we even can subdivide that into little smaller slices. That could be with my special partner, my loved one. It could be with my family, my friends, grandparents, coworkers. All right. Creating intimate spaces to connect with others. E stands for, where are we here? There we go. It is for creating energizing space in my career and home life. Creating energizing space. It's one thing to have personal space and intimate space, but we want to live life. We want it to be energized. We don't want to be, here I am going to work today. Oh, wow, look, it's a few days before Christmas. Yay. No, we want it to be energizing, even in this moment. Yeah, things are definitely different. All right. We may talk about that. You might have some questions about that. But at the end of the day, hey, Christmas is coming up. How are we energized? Well, if we're not, then we need to create that energizing space in order to be able to be excited about life and to live life to its fullest. So the power of pie, we must be careful. Just like pie, we have to be careful. It's like when cutting it up, right? Serving it in whatever places we're serving it in our life. We got to be careful not to mix it all together, okay? We got to keep your pieces of pie separate from being squished together. I mean, come on, who wants to eat squished pie? All right, now I know some of you might be out there. You might know of some people, well, it doesn't matter. I just eat all the food. I put it in. It goes down to the same place. Okay, well, that's maybe one out of whatever, 1,000 people. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but me, I like to keep things separate. That's just one of my things. Okay, depending on you, you might be a little bit different. But it's also where presentation sometimes is also everything. Okay, and here's the analogy I'm trying to make regarding this squish pie thing. Okay, You see, many families, and maybe yourself when I speak about this, it might resonate with you. They're trying to do so much at home, trying to bring so much together, okay? Trying to raise their kids, trying to deal with work, trying to, maybe it's just even feeding the pets, cleaning the house, trying to keep up with the laundry, trying to dealing maybe with, as I said before, a challenging partner that you might be struggling with. All right. Maybe dealing with a lot of these different changes that are very uncomfortable. And we're trying to deal with it all in the same moment. And it's too compressed. We have to decompress it, separate it into different areas. Okay. Different parts of the pie. Okay. And so out of that, we come to the how part. Okay. The what or the why is how to, why we need to create space. The what is using the power of pi. But now, how do I do that? Tell me, Jeremiah, how do we do that? How to create space using pi? And I just want to mention that just always got to give credit due where credit's due. The following information, a lot of it has been adapted, but it's been taken from a guy called Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. He's a medical doctor, but he's also considered an expert within trauma. He's just one of those guys that when he speaks, I listen. Okay. I think his kind of go-to book is called How the Body Keeps Score. So that's just a book that has been very popular just amongst people who deal with trauma or deal with just being more connect with themselves and others. So out of that, we're going to talk about the hows. Okay, well, the first one here is we want to create routine and predictability. Okay, and the way we do that, first and foremost, of anything you do, I mean, really, if anything you take away from today, okay, this is what I want you to do, is first and foremost, figure out how to create routine and predictability. And the best way that continually shows up over and over again when doing this is to create a schedule. Okay, create a schedule and the things prepared throughout your day. Okay, whether you're at home, whether you're at work, do that. Well, how do we do that? Well, create a calendar of connections and activities for work and home. This could include beyond just, well, I have work today, I have work tomorrow. Okay, but how about calling your friend later on in the week? How about maybe you've got a game night that you've got planned with your family? Maybe you've got a Facebook time with a buddy of yours that you're just going to do some chat stuff. See, it's not just about putting in my routine and schedule and everything that I do. That is good, but we also want to have a little bit of fun. And we want to be able to put things that we are looking forward in doing as well, not just the things that we might be kind of, drudging. Oh, I have to make dinner again. Okay, well, let's make it fun. What's your favorite meal? Is there something you really enjoy doing that you really want to do? And you're like, okay, yeah, no, tomorrow's going to be, I'm actually, instead of ordering pizza, let's actually make real pizza. Let's give that a shot. Let's make it together and make it a fun night, whether it's myself individually or whether it's with my family. Let's have a pizza night. And that's something I can look forward to and enjoy and go, oh, I'm excited. Can't wait. Friday night's going to be pizza night. Boy, could be a complete disaster, but we're going to have fun anyways. Adding stuff to your calendar within your schedule that you look forward to. Okay. Also, I want to include add to this because it will make it then a positive experience. Okay. And that's the whole purpose. Calendar, create and schedule. It's just to make it a positive experience. All right. Out of this, okay, I always like to add this. We are wired for control when life is uncertain, and that means we need to take responsibility and take control of what we can in our daily life. That's part of that routine and predictability, taking responsibility and control of what we can in our daily life. Okay. This is where we can look for opportunities. It also is practical things. Okay. If you're working from home, all right, do not be in your pajamas. Do not be in your undergarments or underwear. Get dressed. All right. Create normalcy. If you're going into the office and you were going to dress in a suit, I'm not saying you have to wear a suit at home, but don't be in the sweatpants and t-shirt. have something presentable. All right, something where if the Amazon guy comes to the door for the gift that you ordered, you're not looking, hey, how's it going? No, you actually are looking presentable. This is your life. This is your business. This is your whatever you're doing. This is your job that you're doing. But these are areas that you can take control of, be able to help with your routine and predictability, which will also help with the mental and emotional health side of you as well. So along with that, I also like to include, don't forget to schedule in your time for pie, okay? Your personal space, your intimate space, your energizing space. Make sure you put that within your schedule as well. So that way you can begin to organize that and include that within your daily life to help create routine and predictability. So the other thing I like to encourage you in this situation with everything that's going on is I want to ask you, how is your work routine and predictability? How is your mobility and connection at work? Maybe in office or home office. Maybe, it's kind of, just some of the areas we're going into. It's the end of the year, maybe it's a good time for some personal, maybe in that intimate personal space time, the P part of the pie, personal space. Maybe it's time to take a look and think about, hey, let me reflect about how this year has gone, but not just how the year has been, but in my own life, how's my routine? How's my productivity been? What are areas that I can improve on? I mean, if I'm going to be like this for the next month or 6 months, or something happens down the road and I have to be back at home again for whatever reason, God forbid, but if it happens, it happens. What can I do to improve for the next time? What are areas that I can improve in my productivity? Be in control also of your environment. This is the second point, okay? And what I mean by environment is not just my home space, but also just really in some regards, it's being in charge of my health space, okay? So with my health space, okay, I'm just going to be honest, not to be political, but one of my opinions, I'm concerned, I'll say, with the message that we have with masks on and hand washing. Not that I'm against masks or hand washing, but it's the message and how it's being framed that I'm concerned about. My thing is more about, just based on my past, because I've been through Norwalk, I've been through the various H1N1s and what is it, SARS? I don't know. I've been doing this for a while now, so out of that, I've had the opportunity to learn from some really good staff and from some nursing staff to be able to learn just from my past background working with a not-for-profit. And in that, you'll learn things like it's not just about masks. It's about hand washing. It's about touch points, what I'm touching, my keyboard. Who else is touching my keyboard? How about doorknobs? How about when I open up a door, and so it's being able to be in control of those situations to first of all help relieve anxiety. Like maybe if you have anxiety going shopping, then what can you be in control about? Well, I can be aware of my touch points. I can be aware of, making sure I wash my hands before or using some gel and stuff like that, to be able to get my hands clean, or antiseptic stuff to be able to help clean my hands. And then out of that, having my mask on when I'm in public or in a public place around people, and then washing my hands again, then taking my mask off. And then again, being aware of touch points. So I hope that makes sense what I'm saying there. I'm not trying to belabor anything. I guess out of that is just my concern that as soon as masks became mandatory, all of a sudden, and this is just my personal observation, okay, this is not a statistic or study or what anyone said. This is just what I have observed in my opinion. So I just want to make that clear. As soon as masks came up, I noticed there appeared to what possibly looked like a decrease in hand washing and a decrease in the awareness of what people were touching, what they were surrounding with. It almost became sort of like this, well, I'm protected. I have my mask on now. No. Hand washing first, being aware of touch points, and then your mask. You put those three together and you start implementing that into a routine. Wow, that is you're at least decreasing the possibility for any of the challenges within stuff. Obviously it can't guarantee that you're not going to catch whatever that's happening or around in the world in the moment, but it is a way at least to create a sense of control within my health environment. Okay. All right. Enough about that. Let's move on. It's my little soapbox for the day. And I thank you for being patient and listening to that. So the second area that we want to do within creating space, okay, and how to do that using PI is to create mobility. This is just another way of saying momentum. We want to create momentum in our life as well, okay? And in order to do that, we have to keep mobile and do stuff, all right? And this is where it is a need to take action. I had an opportunity last year. It was around, actually, it was a year ago. Yeah, it was around December. I just had a student from the university just asking some questions regarding social media and the relation to social anxiety. And, we were just talking about just media and technology. And I was talking about how, the overuse of, the iPhone, iPads, technology, and just out of pure accident, I came up with, what happens is when we use too much technology all the time, and that's all we're doing, and some of it sometimes could be because of numbing just the pain and the circumstances that we're dealing with. But as we're dealing with our iPhones, we become immobile. And I realized, oh, that's funny, immobile. So that's kind of the idea with that. And so the question is when you hear me talk about this, are you getting a sense in yourself? Where am I at in this? Am I immobile in dealing with the circumstances? Do I have friends or family members that are currently immobile? They're immobile in what they're doing. They have an immobility to be able to get up and do stuff. Okay. And so one of the things I like to add at this part in our talk today is that this is very important to take action, because by taking action, it helps us keep away from what is known as the fight or flight feelings that we have during uncertainty. Okay. If I were to take my fingers and go in my ears and go all the way to the center, kind of just right behind my nose and eye area, there's this little dude called the amygdala that's connected to the limbic system. This thing called the amygdala is the part of the brain that is basically what's known as the fight, flight, freeze response. Okay. And oftentimes in uncertainty, and we're definitely, in my opinion, seeing this in today with a lot of the polarizing issues that are out in today's topics within the world today, we're seeing people who just, I don't know what to do. I'm frozen. I'm stuck. We see people who are running away. I just want to hide. Just get me out of here. Then we got people who are fighting. Oh, no, we got to deal with this. Those are different emotional reactions that's coming from that little thing called the amygdala. And from a healthy perspective, by creating healthy mobility within our life, taking healthy action, this allows us then to be able to help regulate that fight, flight, freeze feeling that we sometimes get in us when we're dealing with uncertainty. So some of the things that we can do in order to deal with this uncertainty is just using your body, being in connection with yourself, and doing positive things, okay? Like cooking meals, building things, whether it's building things yourself, hobbies, building things with family members, with your family, uh, taking care of your children, even just doing activities, just doing things, being present within your home. These are just different actions that we can take that will help us emotionally and mentally, but it also helps us to keep mobile in doing things. So one of the things, though, that happens out of uncertainty, of course, and the more uncertain we have, depending, everyone's wired and has different stories and different circumstances that happen, is that ultimately that word, whether you want to call it anxiety or whether it's a different variation, which is like depression, ultimately these are feelings that we call stuck, getting stuck. I just feel stuck. I don't know how to move from where I'm at. I love what you're saying, Jeremiah. I want to create mobility in my life, but I'm just so stuck. What do I do? Okay. Well, if you're stuck and really one of the things I encourage and share, and I've got a couple other colleagues that's kind of our message that we share with people, is that you sometimes just have to get up and take 2 steps forward. Okay, so that's really the theme of that mobility. Get up, take 2 steps forward. Okay, so what's a practical example? All right, let's say you're a person or you know of someone who is in bed. I just can't get out of bed. Oh my gosh, they just shut my business down again. What am I going to do? Oh my gosh, this is horrible. And I'm just stuck. What's the point? I'm just going to lay in bed all day. Okay. But then you realize, yeah, I need to get mobile. What do I do? How do I move on from that? Well, very practically, okay, one of the things you can do, as I said before, is get up and 2 steps forward. So I'm not kidding. I mean, if that's you and you're having a hard time even just getting out of bed, be very practical. Maybe take a giant glass of water, which I'm about to do here. Drink a ton of water before you go to bed. Because what's going to happen in the morning? You're going to have to get up. I got to go to the bathroom, but I want to stay in bed. Those are creative ways, I should say, to get up and keep yourself moving forward. So I get up, fine. I have to go to the washroom. Go to the washroom, and I'm done. Well, I'm up. Well, maybe obviously I'll wash my hands. So I'll wash my hands. All right, done washing my hands. Well, maybe now that I wash my hands, I'll splash some cold water on my face, kind of wake up a little bit, wash my face. Well, I might as well fix my hair a little bit, get it all good looking and stuff. Well, and while I'm up, maybe I'll get dressed. See, what's happening when we do those kind of actions is they're taking small steps at a time, but they're practical steps that create a chain reaction of events. All right. So literally, even if it's a situation where it's like, well, hey, what did you do today? Well, I got up, I got dressed, I went outside for a bit, enjoyed the sunrise, or enjoyed the sun for a little bit, and then I went back to bed. Okay. Well, what did you do before last week? I just lied in bed all day. Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. Those are areas that you can recognize that you're taking momentum in. All right. Now that is more of what's considered a clinical diagnosis of depression, for those who are legitimately very much struggling and dealing with that. Okay. And that is where oftentimes then, I or other colleagues will see and support individuals with deep, severe depression. But even through this time, through the pandemic, there's a lot of situations that can happen that just create us feeling stuck. So even practical things, when you're at home doing things, man, get up occasionally, take your break, go outside, get some fresh air, take up, get up, take 2 steps forward, do something different, do something within your routine and normalcy to be able to then help mobility in what you're doing. Okay. Beyond that, I do want to talk about another area of mobility in the area of, and I'm just seeing my time here. If it's okay, I'm just kind of almost done, but I just want to focus on this area and then we'll kind of wrap things up. And then if there's any questions, we can definitely do that. So out of this is a concept I call flexible. Again, at the beginning of the presentation, that's the title, it's that flexibility, okay? Flexible goal setting is one of the areas I want to talk about. Coming up to the end of the year, New Year's starting up in about, I don't know, a week and a half, 2 years, I guess. So wait, no, Wednesday, Thursday, so 2 weeks from now, it'll be a new year, okay, and a day or two. 2 weeks and 2 days, it'll be a new year. Well, that, of course, as you know, during the new year, is when the traditional, well, let's make my New Year's resolution. Okay, great. But for those of you who do understand actual goal setting, this is very important. And it's not just ordinary goal setting I'm talking about, it's flexible goal setting. Okay. And if anyone has learned anything this year, or if we're struggling, I want to encourage you within your goal setting. If you've had goals that are just not working anymore, then I want to really encourage you to create flexible goals this year, okay? Whether you have a short term, whether it's like a 1 month or up to a year, which is generally considered short-term goals, be flexible within it because maybe you're going to have to. Maybe you have Maybe you have a personal goal. I have a goal of traveling to this other country. Well, it might not be, all right, this year, okay, just with how you had hoped and things were. So you might need to be flexible and pop it in your 2 to 5 year goal, into your midterm goal. Maybe, maybe you were on like a year 4 of a 5-year goal, and this year completely demolished everything or it shifted everything. Well, you might have to be flexible and shift it into your long-term goal of a 5 to 10-year goal, all right? And then out of that, I always want to encourage people as well, if you are going to get serious and do some different flexible goal setting this year, always make sure, and this is just some of the work that comes out of the leadership management business guru called Jim Collins. Jim Collins talks about what's your BHAG. He's always talking about what's your BHAG, all right? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? Okay, it's that thing where if this happens, that would be a total miracle. This is probably beyond 10 years, but hey, we're going for it. What's your BHAG? What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? Because you never know. Maybe it'll happen. And that's one of the interesting things that, well, in my opinion, the media is certainly forgetting to encourage and demonstrate, is that there are those, although people are struggling within the pandemic, and I do not want in any ways want to minimize what's going on right now, all right, with everything within the worldwide pandemic, but there are those who have been inspired, have had ideas that have actually started new businesses. I mean, businesses just haven't stopped. There are new businesses even starting today. Okay, I know of a business that started about 2-3 weeks ago, just of someone that I know, and they're like, oh, I got an idea, there's a need. They found that need, got their sole proprietorship, started their business. Wow, good on them. They're not getting stuck. They're taking momentum and doing the best of what they've got to take control of their environment and situation and circumstance. Okay, so enough about that. Definitely, if there are any questions regarding that, then definitely you're more than welcome to ask. But moving on here, this is the third section that I want to wrap up with today, and this is creating connection, okay? And this is where we talk about within the pie area. The last one was mobility. That mobility is how we create that energizing space, okay? So creating energizing space by utilizing mobility. Within creating connection, okay, what we do with ourselves and others, that's the personal space and intimate space, okay? And this is where some of the things that we can do, first of all, we're going to talk about that personal space, creating connection with ourselves first. This is where you may have heard a lot of this stuff, but we hear it, but are you actually doing it is what I want to ask you today. Are we breathing? Are we using mindfulness practices? Are we maybe meditation? How about healthy coping activities like reading, walking? I have here occasionally saving the universe from aliens. That's my video game justification. But here's the key, all right, is that anything that we do, great. If it works for you and it helps connect with yourself, even if it's going for a walk out in nature, do it. But it's within moderation. In other words, if it controls you, then it's not a healthy coping mechanism. If you are in control of it, that's a totally different story. So that's great. If you're saving the universe from aliens, go for it. But if it's 10 hours later and you got your kid going, Daddy, 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 all right, and you're like, oh, yeah, what was that? Maybe it's time to put the controller down and spend some time. Maybe that's now got a control of you. Maybe you went from a glass of wine a week to, it's the pandemic, I'll have a glass of wine a day, to now it's like, oh, well, maybe I am having a bottle a day or whatever. That's controlling you. And you don't want anything to be controlled. And otherwise, it's going to wreck and break your routine and normalcy that you're trying so hard to create. And that, of course, is where we get into those areas like addictions. Okay. Those are areas where even with creating connections with ourselves, they're ultimately goals. When we do things like meditation, deep intentional breathing, they are to help self-regulate us. By helping to self-regulate us, hey, maybe that's one of the keys to, instead of arguing and fighting and getting into arguments with my partner, I can stay calm, relaxed, and caring, and then be able to talk to my partner instead of going, well, you did this and you didn't know. Hey, I'm just wondering, can we talk? I'm feeling a little bit concerned with what's happening and where our relationship is at. I'm just wondering, can we have some time to talk? Wow, what a different way to present, in a calm, caring way rather than a reactionary way, going in a proactive way than a reactive way. It's so powerful when we're able to capture those things. Doesn't mean we don't have intense conversations, but we can at least do it within honor and within a calmness that maybe we haven't experienced for a while. Okay. Out of that, just kind of move on here. This is a little video infographic I just made a few months ago, but it just basically continues on with the concept of connection with ourselves and others, and linking these two before we move on to the other part, which is creating intimate space. Just because we've been asked to be socially distant does not mean we have to be socially isolated. Now, it didn't totally come up here, but it does say in that little bit down there, that's kind of hard to read in the iceberg or ice area, we are wired for connection. Okay. And this is the key. We are wired for connection. And it's so important for us. Just because, again, we have been asked to be socially distant does not mean we have to be socially isolated. We need connection with ourselves and with others. Okay. It's very important. So let's talk about that. We've talked about creating connections with myself individually. Now let's talk about creating connection with others, creating that intimate space. Okay. It's very important to keep contacting your friends and coworkers, especially for those in challenging relationships or single. And I want to specifically, if you're in a challenging relationship, that compression that happens, who are your other contacts, your healthy contacts to be able to create relationship with? Okay. If that relationship is a little bit estranged, you can't isolate yourself because that's not healthy. My heart, especially this year in the season we're in, absolutely also goes out to the singles. If you're a single individual, okay, yay, you've got your 2 people that can go into your home. Okay, they clarified that ruling last week. Well, that's not fun, especially during, this season that we're in right now. We're from a North American cultural tradition. We oftentimes invite people over. We go over to family. And a lot of that, of course, as you're aware, is not going to happen. Okay. Which is very sad. It's a loss. All right. Talk about grief and loss. Okay. But it's very important that we stay in contact. All right. We don't exist, you see, as individuals. And even if, depending on your understanding of what's known as introvert or extrovert, extroverts are the people who can be with 20 people and love life, all that kind of stuff. Introverts are people who gain strength by themselves. Okay. And out of that, even if you're an introvert, that means that you gain your strength by being by yourself. You still need to have that 1 to 3 close connections of intimate space with another person, partner or family members or friends. Okay. So out of that, it's important. This is where things like having family meals, having games, storytelling, music, making virtual and personal contacts is very important. And I know a lot of times that, one of the big chats is about the whole, screen fatigue. Okay. It's legitimate. People are struggling with it, but it's better than nothing. It's better than what we had even 20 years ago with technology, with where it was at and where it's at today. We're able to do these kind of meetings now virtually, which is at least better than nothing. Okay. So just a different perspective just to consider when we're getting tired or frustrated with not being able to fully connect with our family members. Okay. It's important to keep contacting your friends and coworkers. And as the slide says here, connection prevents isolation. You want another key to know how to not feel stuck, how to deal with your anxiety and depression. It's needing to be able to have connection in order to prevent isolation. Okay. So really out of that, it's asking, what have you been doing, okay, to develop intimate space during these various different lockdowns during the pandemic series? Are you doing Zoom calls? Maybe just phone calls. Sometimes it's nice just to have a phone call and not have to worry about a face-to-face interaction. I've been encouraging, especially to those who are students. Man, students have been so isolated. They're at home all day, they're doing studies all day, they're doing their virtual online all day, and that's it. I go to bed. Can't even see my friends. I've been encouraging and getting some good feedback, for example, whether it's in a work situation or whether it is in a student situation, to just even have the phone on, just have a buddy or two, and just, you don't even have to talk. Just know that someone is there. Another presence is available in case you need to talk or ask a question or chat during a break. Has actually significantly lowered that depression and anxiety for some individuals. So just some ideas if you haven't been incorporating that. Other people within the work world, they're not necessarily doing Zoom to communicate face to face, but coworkers are just having Zoom on, or whatever media platform you're using, to be able, such as this one, GoToMeetings, in order to be able to just know that there's someone else there. It's just like being in the office space. It's a similar but different. But it's the difference between falling into depression or staying mentally and emotionally healthy. Okay, so just some ideas for consideration. So wrapping it up, and I'm just going to read this long sentence here. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a talker and I love my run-on sentences. When we intentionally apply all three slices of pie into our life, we allow routine and predictability, mobility and connection with ourselves and others, which allows us to create flexible normalcy, being flexible in our daily lives, at work and at home, no matter what are sudden changes or uncertainties that come up our way. So I just have an infographic here. This will be, I'm not sure how BILD wants to do this, but I sent them the JPEG for this. So you're more than welcome. However, it's decided to be transferred, to keep this for yourself, share it with others. It's just the recipe for creating space using the power of pi, creating personal space in my own life, creating intimate space with my family and relationships, subdividing that into space, which includes my partner, children, relatives, friends, creating energizing space in my career. I'm going to have to add home, but career and home. And how do we create it? Again, these are the key factors. Create routine and predictability. Creating a schedule, your calendar. Create mobility. Start by standing up and taking 2 steps forward. 3, create connection. Just because you need to be socially distant does not mean you have to be socially isolated.